The advantages used China war tensions over Taiwan are breaking point also to removing conflict and mismatch perception, which raises risks in miscalculation. For example, in 2019, China proved an opportunity to seize Taiwan. China and two countries have relations. Taipei Beijing the use will divide Taipei convinced China no plans to invade recently also conflict now sees consolidate power. Z promised to make China great again. Chinese soldiers trade federation. Chinese to lead a brace military action. Ordering Chinese invasion assessment advice for Taipei convinced China is sensible to take military action. Complacent let Taiwan to the left. His offers as Taiwan's military suffers from a shortage of officer government and composing military enlistment. Whether Taiwan's armed forces to create Taiwan's reliance on the U.S. invasion clustering. Use commitment convinced the U.S. and China isolation Trump upset that the balance Parker's Taiwan travel started a trade war. China could move to take Taiwan for 2028. Chinese fear that Taiwan's presidential election will close Beijing's window opportunity and fed a sense of urgency among Chinese nationalists to use the presidential election. Trump is less likely to win Trump isolation alone and burden Taiwan away. Trump says that there may not the idea that China can force the communication without finding delusional dangers. And there's multiple internal escalation. First, the Chinese policy is facing internal opposition because of power consolidation in the 19th Party Congress and will bet to the U.S. on everything but Taiwan. Yet 19 forces of the pro-Z have been multiple lines to argue that have dogged foreign aggression. This divergent war theories stress assumptions that do not help Z trouble. Pressure Z improving China foreign relations, family, equal according to Z fan. Reference the attitude of the writer across fan records with Z, reducing the party's language, China removal the turbulent busy government, question Z, scrapping the turbulent, also disproved Z, disrespecting private property, and state on enterprises, lastly, glasses Z, very tactically the U.S. news complaints are picked up by the Chinese economists 54 influential technocrats and comments in China, their opinion leaders, people's opinion, are good parties, opinions of the CP, Chinese factors, such as around national leaders, influence has been weakened, unless even not only UN because both are former PRC leaders, so what's happening with the disciplined CCP factors. By the time we're waiting for Z to make mistakes, so certainly CCP leaders are holding accountable at the time of the removal of CCP leaders. Believes Z has gone too far. Z is under pressure for trade war. Z criticized the cult of personality in Chinese economy. Z did all back little reason why Z would want to create international tension to reduce commerce. Involving Vietnam or Z would hardly be significant. Z must pick a time on CCP leaders do not want international conflict for adventure. Indicate Z is getting the priorities wrong. U.S. careful with the issue of Taiwan. He's maintains a position that opposes either Taiwan or China to change the status quo. And Z sees Taiwan as key to list the legacy and what leaves offers without reunification. Domestic Taiwan politics and U.S. support are escalating pressures for him to act. UN 2018. U.S. security strategy case in face of Beijing plan to by the island as Z identified new conditions of fundamental. So strategy in Chinese diplomats fighting words also review the protocol exchange between the U.S. and Taiwan will not be tolerated. The PLA would really start a war for U.S. Navy uses the Taiwan party has been open about its wish for the PLA to be battle ready. Z never really tolerate Taiwan separation. He's driven by a strong sense of national pride. Beijing's worried about the opponents of the movement to Taiwan administration by Taiwanese President Z. Beijing failed from this heart and mindset of its people generation of Taiwanese to replace his Chinese identity. Influence of Taiwan's political parties is waiting for Chinese. They're calling for unification by force. 2018 offers such an opportunity. Active as driving force for China changing Taiwan back by force. U.S. seeks to contain China. Series military drills focus on Taiwan. Raised speculation that millions preparing for invasion is the central security and historical achievement of reunification. Beijing takes up arms against Taiwan in 2028 for global chains for East Asia. And the second internal link is elections. Upcoming elections, both Taiwan and the U.S. push for both governments to take a hardline stance on China. That is exacerbated by the perception of increasing Taiwan-U.S. ties. Jiangqiu 2019. Government advisors war cross relations entering changes period. Taipei tilts further towards Washington D.C. said both sides to begin talks on indications of the Taiwan question as a historical trauma for the Chinese agency. Insisted that Beijing would not pronounce the use of unification talks. But the criticism for Taiwan to try to accuse Beijing of undermining the democratic process. Little room for compromise for the 2020 Taiwan elections. Both the U.S. and Taiwan heading to elections. Trump is hardening their anti-Beijing stances to the cyber confrontation in the next few years. If he believes China is not willing to avoid picking a fight become workable, U.S.-China relations looking ahead into zero-sum trouble. Taiwan might not benefit from the friction. Taiwan could expect to move closer to U.S. to the sea. Concerned about the changing U.S.-Taiwan relations. He worries about President's movement in Taiwan and U.S. government. It was Secretary targeting the U.S. into Trump's several pro-Taiwan bills. Trump administration doctors view China as a national security threat, warning China was determined to displace Americans in Beijing's perspective. Washington's strategy to play the Taiwan interfering in relation to the act reiterates U.S. commitment to Taiwan security, something Beijing cannot tolerate. These calls for cross-strait talks raise the voice of support for Taiwan by Congress. Taiwanese has approved one country, two systems. This is after the November elections cannot afford to be weak regarding China. And specifically, side sees being tough on China is key to the election. Election challenges from other factions force her to be aggressive on China. 2019. Public support for Sahai's representative rejection Beijing's call for talks to Thai popularity low due to widespread to improve the turnaround on popular leadership. There's no market for indication for pro-side Z. Besides a rise in popular leadership, the public were convinced by her response to Z's speech, allowing her to save herself side under pressure from the party's line factions to the EPPs, crushing defeat in November. Her weak race is second party secretary next year's poll side must secure support from the U.S. while writing anti-China sentiment. And the third internal link is arms sales. Recent arms sales are uniquely destabilizing Trump has shifted to an intermittent supply approach, which is perceived as the normalization by both China and Taiwan. Quote 2019. America's offered to upgrade the strategic partnership to change China to the sales. The first U.S. big military sale under the tier administration obliged to help Taiwan. Trump pushed for normalization of packages. Arms sales resulted in frequent sales, and now security become increasingly vulnerable due to the rising gap in military spending. Use arms sales boost China independence. The party in the upcoming presidential arms sales resume the all strategic partnership between two allies. And Those sales represent a threat magnified both inside puts pressure on Xi, dramatically increasing the chance of miscalculation in war since 2019. Trump deliberately probed Beijing by boosting arms sales at Taiwan, decided to use Beijing and trying to alter the status quo. The DPP encouraged by Trump adopted a worse understanding decided call for the use of F-16B fighter jets to Taiwan. The sale would not be a clear sign that Washington is strengthening ties with Taiwan, enhance Taiwan's capacity to U.S.-led war against China. The U.S. could have set Trump through Beijing, undermine the one-China policy, China used the relation minors in Taiwan to straight escalates out of control into all-out war. And the U.S.-China war caused extinction, winter 2011. U.S. government possesses over 5,000 nuclear warheads. China's government has 300 attack or trained nuclear weapons. Both nations would be reduced to following the wastelands, bringing a nuclear winter around the globe to destroy agriculture. China's government is currently expanding nuclear arsenal by 2020, more than double that can hit the U.S. And China is governed by defensive realism, Jaleel 19. China is embracing defensive realism. China showed how revolutionary rhetoric, not supporting the social security with neighbors and international reinforced friendly relations with states like joint military exercise. China turned disputes and heard unfortunate friendly ties and far more conducive for China, the region, this whole regional institution being formed. China is part of these multilateral. China is playing a very active role in the UN. China taking part in the nuclear non-proliferation agreement. Analysts argue that participation in institutions is not an adequate indicator. China has the strongest defenders as traditional absolutist confident membership of WTO, support for free trade. China initiated projects like CBAC, economic development, regionalization. Taiwan, one instance where Chinese policies are non-status quo issue in terms of security development, selling weapons to Taiwan, encouraging Taiwan's independence. China pushes their arms sales to Taiwan, China threatens Taiwan against ways their independence. Chinese actions are defensive in nature. Exercise of anger. China does not have these patient sides. The island trees are not something U.S. influence or other complicated Spanish for China. States are concerned to maintain their position in the system. Chinese leaders have understood that aggressively expansion strategy counterbalancing alliances. And thus is the plan. The United States federal government should substantially reduce foreign military sales and direct commercial sales of arms from the United States to the Republic of China. Contention to insolvency. Arms sales represent our commitment to defend Taiwan, longest running, most politically important aspect of our defense relationship. Bush 2016. Reliance on the U.S. constant on Taiwan security strategy, Beijing the longest current attacking Taiwan, but considered our U.S. forces in Washington does not explicitly commit itself to Taiwan's U.S. official side that TRE capabilities that the PRC is acquired promptly and U.S. interventions. The U.S. will defend Taiwan. The other significant element with sales of military equipment has been high. U.S. arms sales to Taiwan political purpose signal of U.S. commitment platforms like the F-16 to improve Taiwan's capabilities. And for Beijing, the TRE is fundamentally a question of arms sales, and sales was signal abandonment of the TRE writ large. 2019. The TRE war in Beijing, on peaceful attempt to take over Taiwan, be agreed that security could lead to military opposition. Technically, wasn't only a treaty, but only law. To resolve question of arms sales, the U.S. organized China, the mainland, so only legal government. How do we justify continuing to provide arms? We are obligated to provide such weapons necessary to the defense of Taiwan. And the TRA is a statement of policy, not law, and is only legitimized through sustained and reaffirmed action. Ending arms sales would decommit from the TRA and would functionally end our security commitment, which 2009. Take arms sales conference use of the word shall to ensure that the executive takes the desired action. TRA states will is more of a statement of intention. The U.S. government should justify Taiwan's equipment needs to use TRA does not mean the sale of arms. TRA security demand false restrictive defense treaty. TRA states that contingencies that trigger U.S. response. TRA only states use policy having the capacity even when legislative language is clear and must be sustained by political commitment. If they use belief Taiwan has a contradictory treaty outlook, our commitment will wane. And independently, arms sales to Taiwan only escalate the security dilemma. Force China to continue to build offensive capacity to respond. Only ending arms sales de-escalates tensions to 2017. Tip for task potential inspire China, Taiwan fit this pattern to the scientific office. Mainland China identifying the anti-independence argument. China increases the purpose of surveillance missions around Taiwan. Actions will increase as China continues to assert itself. Trump administration is working on arms sales to Taiwan, including more advanced weaponry to protect Taiwan. Mark that card. Protect Taiwan.
Where was that?
It says include more advanced weaponry to protect Taiwan.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
You're good. What evidence says the U.S. gets drawn into like conflict between Taiwan and China?
Yeah, the TRA right now states that we have a defense commitment to Taiwan, as in like if China makes an offensive move, then we must come to Taiwan's defense. We think that the AF functionally ends that security commitment, which means the U.S. is no longer drawn.
I get that like the TRA exists, but the card that's tagged about drawn, like the Whitner evidence, is a factual card about arsenal sizes. What evidence says like Trump would nuke China over like China being aggressive with Taiwan?
Okay, yeah, I think the Windner evidence is just a reason why nuclear war would be like very bad. I think that all of our internal links are just reasons why it would. I think all of our internal links are reasons why it'd escalate to nuclear war in the first place.
You have reasons it would escalate Taiwan-U.S. tensions, but you don't have a reason that would involve the U.S.
I mean, I think our evidence is good on this question about why it would escalate to nuclear war, because the U.S. and the China both possess this capability, and miscalculation means that it will never escalate.
Okay. The UN evidence is about peaceful reunification. Why would she like nuke a country that he said is part of China's sphere of influence?
Okay, so we don't think that he's gonna like preemptively nuke Taiwan in order to reunify with them first. We think that he will use other military forces besides nukes to try and take over Taiwan first. However, that draws in the U.S.
If it's a question of like reunification, that would be like the U.S. invading Texas because of a separatist movement. Like that doesn't make any sense.
No, but Texas is not making a push for independence right now. Taiwan is, which is why China would be like pressed to defend.
Okay. The
Or
elections.
like try to reunify.
Sure. The elections internal links. What evidence says that China reacts to taking a hard line?
What evidence says that China reacts to taking a hard line?
Yeah, you have two pieces of evidence that says arms sales embolden side to like be more aggressive with rhetoric towards China. What evidence says that China reacts to that by invading them?
Yeah, so I think first of all, the evidence in the Chinese politics internal link is good on the question of why Xi feels like he has to reunify right now, because there's other forces multiplying against him, and he thinks he's made the promise that he will reunify with Taiwan before his term is over. So he thinks that he sees Taiwan.
But what evidence says that his plan for reunifying Taiwan is an invasion? Like, or could involve that if he felt pressured?
I mean, I guess the Greeks and Wang evidence is a reason why China would invade Taiwan in the first place, and then the UN evidence would be a reason why Xi would want to invade.
What evidence?
The Greeks and Wang evidence, I think, is pretty clear on why China would invade Taiwan.
It says that if there was miscalculation, something bad could happen, but your internal link to that is an invasion. And
Yeah,
that doesn't.
Xi promises to make China great again. Chinese soldiers trained for invasion. China's elite have embraced military action. Ordinary Chinese agree.
Okay, sure. Whatever.
It's 6 off the advantage.
Yeah.
Sending it out. Let me know when everyone's got it. Everyone got it? First off, the assurances is that Taiwan assurances are high now, adding up to the country's global assurances that's weighing 18 no US competition will have incentives to cope with. I don't want to make sense with the health upstream Taiwan's defense to Taiwan's link to the country. The US are predicting now as a Taiwan resize confidence to debate that Taiwan will be particularly alarming Washington taking mission that way. Upgrade relations to support Taiwan. It's to government causes allied proliferation. That's Roman. 14 minute Taiwan doing American credibility that feels regional officers policy that be heard America moralized that what a question to US federal self to with that and hacking their perception of it's been to where nuclear capability benefit of Taiwan could this lead to rapid nuclearization and Japan proliferation outweighs the center. Last 17 other rules to nuclear would be very much practice of its relation to nuclear nuclear more like a bunch of create nukes encourage regional reasons to nuclear weapons in Latin America and Africa. The rest of regional nuclear war with catastrophic environmental consequences will be manifold. And next up is the pick the United States program to serious its foreign military sales and direct commercial sales of arms to the United States governing authorities on Taiwan. It's a word pick out of the Republic of China. They have themselves the case entirely. The 1979 Taiwan released operated the U.S. government using Republic of China in favor of governing authorities on Taiwan as GDT-19. What is the after change of recognition of the United States actively passed legislation that recognizes the RRCs as separate entity term Republic of China no longer used to favor governing authorities in Taiwan. Never the planned use of Republic of China causes nuclear war. That's true. Us the technologists committee universal programmable the ability the emergency use the term Republic of China as a first doctors for Chinese Taiwan island of Taiwan. Any Americans can be from China experts should negatively this usually very hard the cost of public peaceful the difference between peace and nuclear catastrophe. This is subject to interpretation of the separations of the Constitution and the independence and this unless they are the new Constitution Taiwan will be remain an integral part of China. Next up is the diplomatic captain North Korea and deal now before the President who has word 923. top of Brexit means that more than 70% chance North Korea will start agreeing on nuclear weapons by the year 7. And the episode will complete this multi because both Trump and Kim the leaders agreement there. Often to the tradition to materialize by the days of fire for Kim. No more growing back to North Korea start trying to take long-term missiles again at the 7th nuclear bomb back to bloody noses and war. Diplomatic capital is key to war and war and panda. 19 difficult to be the assess how this was deal with North Korea fighting like it may be possible overnight, but still possible that the way which is the only control way. All hostile in the plan requires massive diplomatic resources to reassure our allies. Social law 16. Top US official assured the discovered to speed of it. Let's encourage preservation among allies about delays in the process of the great cities where we share countries that Washington's failure to improve versus would not include the strong bilateral relationships still absolutely secure. Our restricting process for more than a ratio of this one transaction not impact large relationship they are. Our daily failure parties in diplomatic capital is 0 trades offices civilian arms control. Policy is 413 arms control is an opportunity cost of leaders only have so much time. Energy, political capital, ability, invest in the pursuit of policy, seeking opportunity, let's say them in separate one or one super surround and others to advisor. President wants to find every reserves of diplomatic capital and things will buy to do that time membership, political capital and other policy person North Korean. Constitution my amount of team responsible to interview US nuclear users agreeing with 300 British spell of attack the completely as we use could instead use influence of particle for sure considering the major resolution these overnight labor pressure Chinese force the potential for misunderstanding could be significant was massive destruction and how developed government and large preserve Russia, China, and Japan. And next up is the DFS budget countries face that in defense industry relying on sister provinces sustainable industry growth is key to military readiness. Webster 18. To be prepared when those effectual means of preserving peace of defense and second largest export overheads and positive trade balance because the defense companies secure international revenue through international losses the security defense operations made it to be sustainable use defense industry focus on international city increase market share reduce cost increase allocability granted division defense that automated companies and important that issues to be used military military public held that they must be profitable or perish the global system should use readiness contribute to military industrial independence and limit the reach of our adversaries security to triangle and be access to threats that lead to extinction that's helping affecting war for the Malaysia EMP weapons emerging challenges the terrorism will be done with the United States these are not we come to face the currently world how we the military from the secret they make our way war but not prevent pretty much all sources of the deterrence war has always been relied to circulate psychological sentence for siege as a pretty industrial strength consider war for the harmless and risk of the wars next up is topicality reduce refers to sweeping measures that establish quality different quantity of limits of weapons exports with specific restrictions on specific states or types of weapons that's present any restrictions that superior officers and tests for banning of specific states or classes of specific types of weapons reduction of traffic includes more specific restrictions for qualitative or quantitative limits and policies to have to weapons exports violation the F is a restriction not a reduction mitigation for limits and groundings limits include every country and every weapon system or interpretation for the F3 opposite the government but arms system and opposite still substituting for arms system consider travel to the ground. Do you want me to skip that? Next up is the QBQ counterpart of the United States program analysis commission reduces foreign military direct commercial system arms to the United States the Republic of China the People's Republic of China makes traceable and demonstrable periods of the human rights the People's Republic of China unusual actions to create human rights violations the counterpart China causes Chinese teacher reforces rather than pressure to change the calculus community and respond to the racial class of the mutual signaling violent issues conflict public nation then also the word these version of words that use always pressure makes the global center of governments of the very permitting British Jewish operations and efforts in Chinese respect for human rights is a model global this shows 9 addition to like nature and trying to move to one of vehicle for 30% China because Chinese president range posture has had product of North America is developing countries cast the entire region achievement to jeopardy soon improve Chinese national policies for everywhere around the world more democratic China less pollution and in solving HR abuses for red 16 that's work wide before human rights should be even more proud place and use more policies to how to be most likely engage in person who has to increase like the afford the quality of parties policy as well to enhance national security the threat of human rights abusing states obtaining WT on the advantage China system use results in defending Taiwan and Japan F-16 says a right let's cross 19 CPLA after threats with long range voters as a Chinese control last between these seasons victory years cost the media like that about the Taiwan story which I want to admit the Chinese community civil fund of burger honest eastern burger to Russian Taiwan says that Chinese citizens and Taiwan which generating the foreign government that was appeared the kind of use like which wants to visit control due to hurting China new fighters security stability the also security escalation even for minor transgressions Massa 13 consider Chinese military levels of advanced incursions in Taiwan the serious spirit of Taiwan depend on surface air this is the only option necessary but if you're a state better sexual highly escalated Taiwan's British most of Chinese counterparts of the United States policy will take Taiwan's worth when it's seriously invited words for Chinese seeing in order to China causes global war this going 13 minutes after China exploited the Philippines and Empress China lives suspended secretary of waters and mineral resources able to China for hedging back to save brigade that was worth to use so the ultimate security guarantee of the international system for possibly legal likely results in world which the use happening its leadership will world environment should sell them to China since the world policies may have the world where and next ending our resources that makes everything worse constantly to use domestic use backlash to China without resolving the I want to see this for her all of it is silver bullet and it puts this is likely to brand likely to be solved very high security problems so to see no more chances to get the policy would already the genetic security system would raise expectation would not make the terms more enthusiastic the harder would be to concern China's temperatures with their single value better outcomes of trials awful to be in a plus level ability to long term result of worse over instance of the experts professionals should last me which is needs to be the ability should see American Taiwan policy to easily any supports to ensure that we can see a full innovation easier in large scale Chinese retaliation is highly unlikely in small scale backlash is no impact spending like the hormones that range of also responsible for program effect to prevent this really unlikely actions eliminating factors results with the governmental effect possible trouble of beijing and also Taiwan, China is the first to get more than cooperation and supplies to resolution sugar countermeasures, and then there's no independence movement, special 19, the Malcolm, I also worked in advanced LA. I shall decide this 26 months with the anomaly, Taiwan's politics, reporting its previous policy being open power between the blue and green camps, the EPB cannot win, that wins the dictator workers of China, so years of China through your side. We can see the possibilities of low grade version of that player still less, but term racing to work as the nationalist movements and make it known as likely to Roy 12. After considering the relatively the whole thing, so what would reach attention to these states, but anyone happens to believe that it's represented as the border that the main obstacles not used obstacles by the Chinese nationalism and the Chinese people by the CCP that was probably Mark.
Don't keep going.
Which all these to support, but not necessarily to be just opposite efforts at least the Chinese people maybe it's just a fight and
Don't read that. Read this.
China's expansionist, that's Roy 19, China's growing more stations of power increases their airlines and try to establish a superior balance China's determination to use military force by manifest and future disagreements to Beijing demands control for economic security and Beijing influence by the turbulence demands making the Chinese want to create city Chinese border Chinese leader Harbor territorial mission on was claimed on Denver to Paris Member 73 Professor China's military non-compensated for territory and China will never see this paradigm steep with Chinese citizens involved into emerging group power and Chinese senior officials really see China as a significant deterrent efforts to tell companies that China exhibited domineering behavior the Chinese citizen and martial Chinese security so now the class security of the seals and coordinated insubordination Chinese to find Chinese retaliation Chinese overreach state and would as his desire sphere of influence. And no use China word. I can.
Yeah, that takes up.
Okay. Okay,
Sure,
that's
that's
fine.
fine. Listen at the right one.
What cards didn't you read?
I didn't read Heath or the bonus.
Just on case, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Status of the off.
Status quo logical option. So they're conditional.
Sure. Let's go to the Japan prolif. Decide why would Japan proliferate?
The argument is that the Wang card makes is that like Washington's current cooperation with Taiwan like sends a better signal to allies' confidence, and it says that abandoning Taiwan would reduce allies' confidence in the credibility of U.S. security commitments.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Japan
So
would
why
question.
is Taiwan a litmus test for these other alliances?
The Raymond card talks about that more. It says that policy can't be compartmentalized. Tokyo would naturally question U.S. resolve, and Japan would feel threatened.
Yeah, sure. The pick. So your evidence says the Republic of China. So using that Republic of China leads to nuclear war. Can you draw the internal license for that?
There, it is the two card. It says very explicitly that the distinction between the two words lies at the heart of the cross-strait conflict and could spell the difference between peace and nuclear catastrophe. It's just that like China does not like the term Republic of China at all. It makes them think that the U.S. is undermining the one China policy, and they will invade Taiwan because of that.
Okay, so this card was written in 2007. Has the U.S. government not referred to Taiwan as the Republic?
No, the card before that, the GTT 19 card, says that after the TRA, the term Republic of China was no longer used in the U.S. in favor of the term governing authorities on Taiwan.
Okay, sure.
It says like explicitly, legally, that is the correct term. And the two card is very explicit about how like.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the next. Is that so? Like, what? Why is there a North Korean deal now, and why is it going to be successful?
The word card talks about how there's momentum towards a deal and an agreement on like denuclearization that is coming now, because it says that like Trump and Kim both want one and are committed to making the deals. It's just a matter of fine-tuning their agendas. But fine-tuning is like actually like a very difficult task that they have to keep working towards. So diplomatic capital
sure.
is key to
So, why does Trump still have diplomatic? Or is it Trump like as the diplomat?
Well, it's like the State Department's diplomatic capital. Like the ability of the State Department diplomats to like manage negotiating both a deal and reassuring allies
So
is not.
what's the escalation scenario for North Korean war to go like cause extinction?
The Mount card says that like the U.S. would use nukes in like a spiral of miscalculation with North Korea, which would like make Russia and China unhappy and would lead to like a scenario of miscalculation because like it talks about like how a cloud of fallout would drift over Russia, China, and Japan, which would make all of those countries not happy. Like Japan is our allies, we probably wouldn't nuke them, but it's like Russia and China would definitely be mad about it.
DIB decide. So how much of sales do Taiwan arms sales make up?
The Webster card doesn't talk about that, but it's like specific to like how international sales function in the defense industrial base, and says that those sales are key for them to like cross the line to profitability. We can also read more links about how like canceling contracts signals uncertainty.
Sure.
So correct. And can you just repeat those cards you didn't read on case?
The last two.
Okay.
And then the other card that I read Ben should have sent out.
Yep. It's just revisionism, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, stop up 7-11. Wait, so- It's case. T. The Japan decide. The ROC pick. The dip cap decide. The DIB decide. And the HR counter.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah. Case, Pearson, T. Japan decide. Like the allied pronoun. ROC pick. Diplomatic capital decide. DIB, then HR counter.
You said Peterson?
Or T Pearson, the T show.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
All good? They fundamentally drop two of the three internal links. The first is CCP political dynamics. They uniquely Xi faces internal pressures to take Taiwan in the status quo. Those pressures lead to escalation because he takes Taiwan, and that causes U.S. drawing in a world where we're committed to the TRA, which is a defense commitment. They say F-16s are key to deter. That's obviously not true because the third internal link specifically talks about why F-16s uniquely anger China, and recent arms sales have angered them further than what they've done in the past. They say, and then I'll win the defensive realism stuff, which means that there's no impact to the turn. They say ending arms sales is worse, but obviously it isn't worse because because of all three of the internal links. I'll extend the second internal link here. It's uniquely elections in the U.S. and Taiwan cause more conflict because they take hardline stances on China that uniquely angers them, and that's those stances are uniquely emboldened by arms sales. They say that there's no independence movements. Obviously, there are independence movements. Tsai is uniquely using independence rhetoric in her elections because she sees it as key to her political party support, to her political party survival, and they say reducing support will cause independence movements. But that's obviously not true because she's uniquely emboldened because of arms sales and the TR and her commitment to the TR and the status quo. They see that there's no invasion, but obviously China would try to create a blockade on Taiwan to take them in a world where they want it right now. There's a brink where that would cause conflict. I'll do the revisionism stuff. Their evidence relies on the assumption that China is inherently revisionist, which constructs all their actions as threatening, that relies on an incorrect view of international relations. That's the reason weighing evidence. China's defensive realistic Jalil evidence is the most predictive evidence in this debate. Ace opponents territorial resolution. China actively seeks to resolve territorial disputes with regional countries like India. It means they make attempts to preserve status quo relations. Peace opponents organization. China is involved in a number of multinational cooperations like the UN Non-Proliferation, WTO, and CEPC that prove China isn't revisionist. And peace opponents reactionary politics actions in the SDS and Taiwan are the only reactions to things like American commitments to the TRA. Rejection notions of an intrinsically aggressive China. They're silent on the nuances of CCP political dynamics. Wise 1910 analysts assume that China's structural features of China will seek to dominate these domestic political factors that shape strategic ambition, helping explain with the variation of Chinese cooperation as well as confrontation, nationalism, affects China's willingness to raise conflict, family, domestic agreement, and raise the cost of this is a low resource of compromise. Researchers show disentangling historical parallels. The city provide little analytic traction. T. Pearson. We mean plaintiffs in a vacuum violation. It just clarifies that we set a numerical cap. These point is that we are seeking a reduction of all arms with qualities being sent to Taiwan. That means it's a qualitative portion. These points grammar are efforts designed to curtail weapons. To combat placement makes it an individual clause. That's the Pearson evidence. Restrictions can target specific countries. Newton 11 ACA as a comprehensive review of arms systems, including reduction of arms systems. Countries prefer ACA point position. ACA is the gold standard. While Pearson uses words inconsistently and is based on global trade terms, limits, and ground. AB point is over limiting. Pearson is functionally whole, whereas it eliminates all countries in a weapon system is not that in their case loses the picks every time. A default reasonability, no indefinite intent to exclude makes competing interpretation arbitrary and causes substance functional limits, circumvention and substantial check abuse. Japan dissents. Latent proliferation is inevitable and status quo. Takes out your full fat off and burning. It also has 16 key elements of Japan's plutonium are on the edge of failure. The nuclear establishment is pushing the mechanisms to try to solve the program. There's always more than energy security, nuclear proliferation, and conflict points in East Asia. Japan's stockpiling weapons usable plutonium. Nuclear ambiguity and opaque proliferation is the only scenario for nuclear miscalculation. Escalation also causes nuclear terror. Wesley, NPT makes opaque proliferation the only option for nuclear weapons is force. Neighboring states could catastrophic boost out the states of nuclear weapons. We develop weak faster mechanisms to stabilizing like attention. System control problems, risk of accidents, rise risk calculation, more likely undertaking opaque proliferation, transnational struggling networks. The alliance is bad. Japan should nuclear aspects extended deterrence, raises the stakes in escalation, while direct deterrence solves conflict. Lane Gates, 16. Extended deterrence found in the U.S. and NATO strategy Cold War with the troops rather than American nuclear weapons. Direct deterrence is key. Deterrence is hard. Extended deterrence work best be credible use. Listening to commit time for status to reassure allies. Number of experience solve the U.S. commitments to suicide on behalf of nuclear tactical weapons. Use U.S. strategic national extended deterrence to address the NATO cohesion. Absence to survive conflict over Europe is completely to factor Soviet Union. You control Europe sovereignty. Delineated, respected, dangerous geopolitical flashpoints. Cut the card flashpoint. I'll go to the ROC pick. Word picks are bad and it's infinitely regressive. There are on the articles that crews had to discuss. We can prepare against all of them, especially when everyone in the politics can have multiple meanings. And also fairness. They steal 7 minutes and 55 seconds of the A1AC and takes issue with a few seconds of it. That skews the debate for the neck. And also deterrence. We'll change what you see after the round. No unique reason the ballot's key to remedy. It's not in the literature. Our articles are about the problematic discourse, not words in a vacuum. Make finding answers contextual to the debate impossible. And it's also counter-interpretation. They get functionally competitive picks. Most of their education and all of ours, permutation do the F functionally competitive. Permutation do the counterplay. The card has absolutely no warrant for nuke war. It's also talking about a China expert, which probably assumes it's a politician in China. No North Korea deal now came. 16 okay, no consistent. It won't meet with the U.S. We're on negotiations. LASA advances hostile policy against the North. The chief of North Korea, nuclear negotiators said a discussion about China telling because the U.S. is not declared old and capable of empty-handed North Korea using the U.S. Trying to mislead the public have no ability to improve relations. The plan doesn't require diplomatic capital. The show all evidence is extremely vague on this question. Read it after. You should read it. Then North Korea won't initiate a war. Multiple wars. Brzezinski for 3. They can know the Korean weapons is a long way to go. They understand that they finish the war, losing how much military power the U.S. and South Korea can boast sufficient to the Korean invasion, the economic policies to prevent any destabilizing influence or make it impossible for the region without power. They need regime to rise. Others for playing out the university of the USA. Meetings with the Americans are still used as a resource produced by North Korean leaders. That's actually from 2013. DIB design. The DIB collapse is inevitable, monopolies offshoring and no innovation installer. Nazi offshore activities to defense rates as military items that only domestic producers and all production facilities high risk of being shut down. The China supplier from specialty chemicals and munitions and no substitutes instead of inventing new technology, inventing new ways of creating monopoly system. Reverse monopoly and consolidation. Military capacities are having money isn't going to defense. The link is tiny, even if all sales stop. There's no macro effect. So 19. Saudi Arabia is the largest economy for defense and economic impact. Somalia will be dispersed over decades in the U.S. economy. HR campaign. Conditions counterpoints are voter race, opponents education normally means isn't a core controversy, which is a focus for the planet read on critical conditions, basic bonus fairness, skills the entirety of the one AC forces to AC to restart often over uncertainty. Permutation to both. It doesn't solve any of the internal links. AC bonus CCP political dynamics. You can cross-apply all the internal links from case here because it doesn't solve any of the unique reasons that cause a break argument in U.S.-China war. The permutation to the counterplan. The counterplan is worse for relations and Taiwan self-defense. Gomez 16 restoring U.S. military support superiority was sharply the credibility of American convention. Taiwan demonstrated U.S.-China relationship. China was strongly opposed to U.S. SES and trade issues in North Korea. North Korea supported U.S. closure U.S. Chinese cooperation on setback progress. Conditionalities of voter like innovation to no risk options. Move their research incentives and dodges class to living to rate structurally disadvantaged the assets through strategy. Dispose of all their offense. I'll go back to the Japan. Absence of the superpower conflict in Europe is two factors. The European countries steadily delineated China's great power on the rise of dangerous geopolitical flashpoints. U.S. present alliance relationship, the risk of being trapped in conflict in North Korea, the worst treaty and security between the U.S. and Japan, concerns China and Japan and the U.S. Security treaty with Japan, China poses the risk of saying America or China, strong militarily in the U.S. Also challenging its equally China, the nuclear and counter-risk capabilities. China also developing new idle numbers, several efforts to reassure dependence. China South Korea review strategy is not credible. A compelling argument of more nuclear armed states and more stable than Japan and South Korea. These criteria can be maintain the nuclear forces of the U.S. allies. The resolution of both for war, the U.S. could be second to nuclear conflicts arising over issues.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna start out. Stop at 9:44.
Here. You get your concepts?
Yeah.
My question is, what about, like, your answer to our no independence movement's argument is that Tsai is, like, campaigning on independence. Our card says that Tsai has been, like, an advocate for independence for the past 3 years. Like, why is now key?
Because the elections are coming up. The past 3 years haven't been election years. 2020 is uniquely an election year, which means that she's using that independence rhetoric as support to gain support in that election, which means uniquely that hardline stance has been amplified in the status quo.
What is the bring for, like, Tsai's independence rhetoric? Like, because our card says that, like, Tsai has, like, been in power for 3 years and
No, it's not. It's like, okay, so I guess the reason that the independence rhetoric has gone up in the status quo is because of the election. We've made claims that there's more independence rhetoric than in the past because of this like election, right? She sees this rhetoric as key to get through the election and win the election, which means that it's amplified in the status quo more than like what your evidence talks about in like the past 3 years.
Reactionary politics as a subpoint on revisionism, like, why does reactionary politics mean that, like, China is not a revisionist power? Because your only example is that actions in the SES around Taiwan are responses to the TRA. Like, the TRA happened, like, a long time ago, and they're still, like, involved in the SES. This is argument, like, they're still reacting, and, like, why does that not just prove that they're going through revisionist now?
We'd say that all of the stuff that's regional because we'd say that a lot of the stuff that China does in the region is necessary, like is a reaction to stuff that the U.S. tries to do in the region, because the U.S. has also tried to ramp up action in the region, which China sees as their own territory or their sphere of influence, which means that all the stuff that they do and like the examples that you're going to give in the block are just reasons that they're reacting to U.S. encroachment.
But your argument is that things like actions in the SCS are responses to actions on Taiwan from before this millennium. like, if they're going to overreact to things like that, like, why does that call into question the thesis of revisionism
Sure, just like
if they're
millennium is
still
like
going to
20 years,
inevitably, like if it spills outside of
Sure,
the
also
thesis
we've
of revisionism?
increased alliance commitments to like Japan, South Korea, other stuff like that would also increase this reactionary politics, the subpoint that it talks about. It's not just the TRA.
Okay,
We say
so
that
then
the
I
TRA
guess
is
my
uniquely
next
used-
question would be like,
Okay.
why do things like alliances make China feel threatened? Like, what about like the U.S. being friends with Japan makes China think that like, oh well, we must escalate like war in the SES? Like,
Oh yeah, okay. So they just see that as as sort of a warning to the U.S. to not encroach on their territory. It's not like I guess it's more of an argument that they've been seeing American encroachment on their territory. We'd say that
well, if
it's
they
just
see
encroachment.
American encroachment on their territory in every action by the United States, like why does
Actions
that,
in that region where we've taken or we've sort of made alliances in that region where they see that as their own their own political sphere, which that's obviously more encroachment. It's not if we were to make an alliance in like Europe, they wouldn't see it in the same way.
9:45. Okay, 7 minutes.
Please, first.
As long as everyone's gone, I'm just gonna get some water real quick.
It's gonna be memes.
Save. Don't want to crash. Okay, there we go. is so quirky. When did you take a video? Actually, I shouldn't eat it before doing this. That's not intelligent. Oh yeah, Dan decided he needed to make me feel bad about losing round 4, so he wrote that on the board.
Which one lose to?
Washburn roll.
Fair enough.
I think I lost my phone again. Oh, no, never mind, it's right there.
Oh, I should write that down. Who did you send the video to? Oh. Okay. Okay. Should be sent. Assurances DA, dip cap DA, QPQ counterplan, the DIB DA, then the advantage.
Can you repeat that?
Assurances, dip cap, QPQ, DIB, the advantage. Is everyone good?
No, I'm gonna get it.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
okay. Proliferation causes extinction. Usually losing pressures mean that basic causes destabilization of all hotspots and causes lose nukes that make nuclear crisis way more likely. That's a standard return to the case. Their internal links are about China perceiving threats and sphere of influence. Taiwan getting a nuke would be way worse, or Japan getting a nuke would be way worse than a slightly better aircraft. But Japan will proliferate with CBW weapons. That's the big 14th. The facing after policies increase the security of nuclear for allying with the system. It's also top biological chemical weapons proliferation. As substitute bioweapons cause extinction. This math in the current extinction specifically help knowledge about the also increasing the as well like this, but it just bioweapon because exponential effects. The impact return is ridiculous. The latent proliferation now card doesn't actually say the proliferation, says they're stockpiling plutonium, but assurances solve actual proliferation. This week 14, the study to guarantees quantum analysis, spell string by case of systemic guarantees are reduced with the proliferation will have the findings with knowledge of low programs which regard as the clear signal statistical analysis to be extremely complex guarantees makes use of knowledge of the selected analysis of the range of sex the country with respect to the benefit decision calculations the makers balls here credibility guarantees balls makers as we read the stages all part of answer consider currency as a key area the opaque proliferation argument. So this makes zero sense. The internal link to proliferation is assurances, not norms. It says the constraining norms means that there's just secret proliferation that doesn't assume an active choice to not proliferate, which also solves their opaque proliferation argument. There's no reason that they don't have a reason that opaque proliferation is worse than normal proliferation. So you should default to the external bioweapons of NPT verification, check their opaque proliferation, and strength the regime. There's no purpose 14. The NPT verification notification frees the UFG members the opportunity to verification to be the surpass the detention of further proliferation to generate the contest strength of the NPT verification discovery rocks per argument. It's about the addition to safeguards credible NPT curbs opaque proliferation. This Bureau 415 the NPT version proliferation check for raise the NPT reduces uncertainty about the intentions against the cause which all budget breaking policy purposes to constitution verification purposes efficiency of NGOs and tracks the ability of international active pressure these are locked together into the pressure the NPT reduces the length of proliferation for 30 years of causal data over punchery. This women 14th 15th while many the studies are going to make the studies medical science into cultural correlation studies reciprocation analysis but proliferation running 2020 2000 the NPT's played a key role in curbing the nuclear NPT of associated likelihood of pursuing nuclear weapons. The proliferation is good for deterrence. Proliferation is decidedly bad. Evidence does assume quick drawn and chain ganging behavior within allied structures and increasing propensity for quick escalation of nuclear that's the same terms, but independently their evidence assumes a norm collapse whereby everyone gets nukes at the same time. If it happens one at a time, i.e. Japan gets weapons that increases illusion pressures instead of deterrence, their evidence lacked empirical backing. The best models prove that proliferation stabilizing causes nuclear war. The nuclear weapon more likely the proliferation except literature versus the urban space episodes bad empirical studies have shown that the proliferation of causal war. These methodologically random experimental identification of causal relation affection and local making a role to compare the effects of subjective and statistically different implicates the human travel experimental use the of the observation the empirical test the decision most briefly and to about the risk track of energy, especially if the most nuclear competition the historic been as biological crisis proliferation is dangerous to the world when nuclearization may be irrational. Also contrast the failing risk of non-nuclear wars higher proliferation breaks down deterrence. Robin correctly assesses empirical record any risk outweighs as Bell and Miller 15,000 to what business nuclear less than 5 wars in contrast nuclear various work on nuclear states experimentation by nuclear actors nuclear weapons very shield nuclear weapons of golden seas with the English complex another creating the weapons areas and work on material masses the exists the and the failing of deals with a lot of problems separation and wants nuclear is out of control by the international to this to express close to worthy nuclear applications more likely to continue to be away from new opportunities the lack the conventional wisdom like to break part of the branches as the cargo body the rules of conscious are very advantageous that the advancing cargo war means there's no longer separation is mutual advantage because they don't have control for passive conflict when this reduce the procedures to significantly reduce the original conventional conventional weapons or any other nuclear weapons contrary to Miller findings of the possible making because for efficient the best presence nuclear weapons guarantees when not down zero nuclear weapons called because of it these are severe consequences of nuclear use. Dipcat. North Korea war goes nuclear congregation to across the whole peninsula. The U.S. and China miscalculation, asymmetric calculation forces the use of nuclear weapons causes extinction habits. Quick amount of time frame. Should come first and impact calculation only. Die once they say there's no deal now. The evidence just says that the past. The evidence just says the past summit collapsed. Our argument because it proves that DIPCAP is key because you can't denuclearize Korea with one summit, which proves that ongoing efforts are key. But the talks are resuming now. Diplomacy is working this scheme. 924 the nuclear negotiation between the U.S. and North Korea resuming and asking which assessment the for the nuclear diplomacy terms of further meeting happens. There's a hyperbole for talks between the U.S. and North Korea. They're starting 2 weeks. Trump keeps having these countries make progress at the working level. Negotiations now is key progress. This is a fourth summit that's writers. Not first North Korean server shows working level talking to North Korean nuclear programs. Due to big fourth time possible within the year. Negotiations make progress. State Department's primary goal is disarmament. The squad 19 policy at the mission State Department's here clear back table and deliver equilibrium electronic rate there. Several countries be happy with the lines of preparation. Get that happening. They say that there's no there was zero war for this plan requires massive expenditure to pick up and reassure allies. Arms deals to laser cancellations, freak them out, and make them think we're abandoning them. We have to spend lots of time and resources telling them it's just arms deal. This should all end the trade of it. It's specifically true for the diplomacy, which is zero sum requires trade-offs since DIPCAP is fine at this point and the plan won't be initially accepted by allies. Bloody resources required. This Bloomfield 60 information to advance requires expanded public diplomacy. Friends are the political policy experts these officials need to be simply told, but hundreds of persuaded Americans governments are capable of look at no longer measured by numbers. Abandonment fears demand U.S. diplomatic reassurance. This Nelson White 17th the responsibility fears expanded to complete registration for their commitment to Japan. Not to the declarations the but by dialogue mechanisms illustrated the political partners go to interoperability capabilities Trump's afraid reassurance to defend Japanese officials and military actions are involved there. Against that they say there's no war. No, this presumes the status quo impact of that, but the North Korea, but it does cause nuclear war. It draws in China. There's an Act 17 nuclear conflict in North Korea. The consequence of between one nuclear winner is draws in climate causes right. Popularity problems with the 100 problems we need. North Korea doesn't have the capacity, but the danger is exactly eligibility to cooperation the U.S. and China. The international Australia fuel large nuclear war. Try or die. North Korean first strikes because of nuclear overconfidence. Only limited denuclearization solves this war. And in 19 the case of argument limited to the northern weapons. The role should be nuclear posture consistent with the narrative defensive use. The North Korea capacity increases size and sophistication of the regime will gain greater consequence and confidence with the United States. We live to find out that the North Korea reduce to initiate provocation of escalate crisis or the risk of working the nuclear abilities allow for manage escalation conventional conflict. The QBQ counterplay. We'll concede the permutation of justice competition we're going for. Condition counterplay theory is a reason protective argument team condole to your interpretations that we get what we did first is like flexibility. They get to pick a vote because we have an option compensate for action and consider guarantee for two information processing multiple options for suicide efficiency and their best answer is the most role. It increases the focus of it increases critical thinking. And third is logic. Proving Canada's best to be able to play. It's good. Logic is key to make any skill portable. Four is ideological flexibility. It's the only way to read one K1 counterplay. Any alternative results in community schisms. 6 5 excuse are T violations in case you concern no risk options. 6 they should have an opportunity. Cost any other interpretation or artificially inflation testing. 6 7 theory interpretation of arbitration still serving. They move the goal plus generate cheap points. Divorce and seven to reject the argument team and dispute doesn't solve because it allows them to straight train counterplans. The DIBDA concede no length, no offense below the advantage. We're not going for the deterrence part. They concede the Mazda. It's an independent case. China is less careful if they aren't deterred. That causes Taiwan to shift to a SAM-based deterrent strategy, which means they'll shoot down Chinese planes, which causes crisis instability way more. It causes crisis instability way more. It means that crisis instability is way more likely. The plan doesn't solve anything. First is rising expectations. The plan is to China's belief that we will support reunification. We won't support further measures, which inevitably rise later. The second, their internal links about Taiwan's willingness to reunify. That will never change because of massive opposition, making China think it will. Just raise tensions more. Further, the plan makes negotiations possible. Taiwan will only negotiate from a position of leverage, since it
key 11, the U.S. arms make the element of competent developers and communication with this division. As multiplication confirms the for unification may increase. There is no backlash. Chinese armed forces get a lot of military cooperation. There's no massive political pressure against backlashing. That's the Sputnik. And CCP responsible to constrain this Sputnik 19. He one believes the Chinese are verbal responsible. We've shown, but the production of the country Cavender agrees is empirically denied under the threat of sanctions. The CC-15, the promise of the U.S. firms that we never came to that. We can possibly be from resolving major commercial interest in China. Although actually, we believe a serious escalation. China is one of the U.S. charging affairs. The just the moderate response with the sheer respectability for the Beijing was good for the policy. But absolutely, yeah, the Beijing can make the executive, but does not follow through. The Beijing may consider the warnings rather than action. Or enough. There's no independence internally, which is also answer the CCP political dynamics of because about Xi's reaction to perceive Taiwan as independence movement. First, nobody in Taiwan supports independence. Second, the next elections between two candidates that both oppose independence support doesn't matter because the result is the same. That's the Bush evidence. And Taiwan won't be emboldened. This is just the 19th vote of Taiwan independence is the from party to building the kind of hand green movement that could tie to being regularly re-elected parties to tendencies and seek presidency. The campaign failed to go to independence referendum, but the legislature the new party participated in green vote. The music candidates the party Kyoto again. No independence move, but this Bush 19 China will be in the fields government campaign to achieve unification. Actually, scratch the Bush card.
That was the last one?
Yeah.
Where were the? I guess we can start. But after no backlash, did you read like the? You didn't go to revisions, right?
No, I did not read the revisionism cards.
Okay. Alright, yeah, I guess we can start.
Okay.
QPQ. Actually, no, not QPQ. DipCap. Why is diplomacy key? I guess to like move these talks forward.
It's not just diplomacy; it's like diplomatic resources. I.e., Pompeo needs to be like the reason past nuclear talks failed under Bush was because there were small details like verification standards that weren't able to be worked out because there was other distractions.
How does the AF ruin those resources?
Because like you need to reassure, like the State Department would have to reassure allies after we cut arms sales.
So I guess like where do those resources? How do those resources just like? What happens to the resources? I guess is my question.
They go to like allies in East Asia that need reassuring, so they can't negotiate with North Korea.
Why? I guess. What are those resources that just go to other allies and can't be used on North Korea?
Diplomats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like is there evidence specific to what diplomats go where? Like, why is that a reason that we can't continue talking with North Korea?
Well, like there are a finite amount of State Department resources, and like the 2AC really didn't say a warrant for no trade-off. So like.
Okay. The advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Taiwan? Why would Taiwan shoot down Chinese planes?
Oh, our argument is that they'll inevitably want to deter a perceived Chinese invasion. If they can't intercept them with F-16s and like head them off, they'll be more likely to just shoot them down with surface-to-air missile batteries they already have installed, which makes crisis instability way more likely.
Okay. This like perception thing that they just want to make, I guess China think they're like defensive. What's the warrant to that argument?
Like, what?
Just that, like, I guess, is it like a perception argument that they want to make China?
No, it's just like they need some way to, I guess, head off Chinese incursions across the midline to like.
Why is there no backlash? Or like no Taiwan backlash?
Our argument, actually, the second Sputnik card I read specifically cites the 1AC Huang author and says that the conclusion of all your articles says that China will be more likely to escalate via rhetoric, but not with actual force.
Okay. And like, I guess, why does support not matter?
Are you talking about the like independent/electoral response
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah, our argument is that the two candidates up for election from the blue and green parties, neither of them support an independence move. So like regardless of the election outcome, it really doesn't matter.
Okay. The prolif stuff. Why does NPT curb all prolif?
Our argument is that
why would countries like abide by that?
Yeah, verification standards solve the opaque prolif stuff. So there's only risk that collapsing norms is bad. So like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
Alright, I'm sending out. It's just the tip.
Case of the time.
The advantage at the bottom if there is time.
All the cards on the advantage are in the two. Just
Can I move it?
oh yeah. Oops. Sorry.
And you're gonna release the lock.
Okay. Very good. Even if you normally think board picks are stupid, this cannot put as a total headshot. Just the plan B uses government authorities in Taiwan instead of the praise the Republic of China. That solves the whole case. There's zero a chance of a coherent solvency because the U.S. hasn't even used the term Republic of China for 3 whole decades since the TRA passed. We only need to win a 1% risk of a net benefit, but we'll win a much bigger risk anyway. Use of the term freaks out China makes them think we're diverting from the one China policy and causes nuclear war. So I want to say true evidence, which actually says the nuclear war could result from irresponsible use of the term. The break is now. We actually said Republic of China in '96 that destroyed relations and made China hyper-vigilant for use of the term in the future. That's the APC 1918. We use the term Republic of China. China subjects perceived leads purpose to be China to Taiwan independence. They were active Charlie canceling a visit. They postponed all global negotiations and such no substantive meetings occurred for over 3 years. From this point on, China began to pay attention to petitions and discussions of war China, and we almost went to war over it. Then don't take that chance again. That's government on Eastern China nearly came to blows even aggressive species in the literature. Republic of China, the damage was the last time everyone to the Christopher embrace for the worst China commits military reaction, empowering a team facility for 30 days and then back to 100 miles to Taiwan. To the theory debate now counter-interpretation. The net gets picks out of words in the plan. It solves their offense because the resolution is short with only one key term, which makes it predictable and manageable for research. I'll answer their defense later, but first our offense is core ground texting. The after resolution is to the central parts of being negative. Every part should be open for critique. Netflix always in theory bias favors the offense. Strategic cost, strategic benefit. They choose to use a term they should get defended. They get the advantage against use. They should have a reciprocal cost. Education, examine terminology like how to define Taiwan is vital to debates about them. The whole point of the TRA was recognition and words, which was vital for diplomacy. That Slavic to diplomats, setting rhetoric, words, world limits for trading words, though, and the record diplomats may slow to the ability to use language, diplomats to be aware and control the power to fix the word that comes to language. Diplomats may have a choice, and the choice of even single words matters. It's free what's in a word, everything. As a mentor, not the politics, but it's more supporting grades, the first meaning of words, hardly trouble. Language shapes to be words, to the words, for many words, ways which virtually predetermine the reaction of the choice of even single words can matter. And all counterfeits are picks, they all have something in common with the man. Only Nick Fiat is obviously terribly unfair for the negative, but that's not a bit of reject the argument on the team. The first defense argument at multiple meetings. That's not true in the context of this pick. Republic of China was the official name for the unified Chinese state before Congress was the TR in the 70s, but ever since then, youth policymakers have avoided using because it denotes Chinese independence of itself. China only has one meaning, which is the one at sea, GTT and Chu. They said fairness, but the text is the best brand because it controls what they feel. It's not arbitrary and it doesn't move because all they have to do is defend the plan. Text, of course, is good plan. Writing an argumentative responsibility, rejecting picks, cause radius that kills a class with specific education. The deterrence argument, this argument doesn't make any sense. If we prove the plan is a bad idea, that we have a competitive alternative, we should win them. This is the same thing as saying, oh, we realize we have peace China, we'll change that before the next round. They'll put us down on it. The argument about no literature, there are hundreds of articles with the title of China's government because they perceive perception, language, shape, policy, diplomatic politics. There's also a new ground laws because they can defend the term makes opposite of their impact on a benefit, but their counter-interpretation was being a functional competition, but we mean it because the counterplan is functionally competitive. The RRC and Taiwan are functionally different entities. That's written in 19. The islands have committed about South China always belong to the mainland. It's the RRC, a governing system. The RRC administrates the world. The RRC administrates Taiwan. It's the legal sovereignty for the islands. Capture the place of the world. The RRC has the system of everyone that functions. The RRC, the island types, to give people conflict them with same so Taiwan. Media which they typically too lazy to collude between the RRC and Taiwan and to the different words alone. They choose the functional plan. Policy making depends on precise language. The argument falsely perceives a distinction between warm and conflict, which is inseparable. Language is functional. It's you. Each four language is functional. Language is the way it is because the meaning makes for the using language is semi-active process of making meanings. That means you vote negative on presumption because we don't sell any arms to the Republic of China because we don't recognize it as an entity in any U.S. government documents. They're affirmative. It's their burden to prove that we do. Otherwise, bidding up does nothing. We'll insert this image to prove it. It's from the State Department's official list of arms transfers and table 2D, which lists individual commentary recipients of U.S. arms. That's Taiwan is made available because we actually sell arms to Taiwan. When you search Republic of China, there are 0 results. That's the U.S. Department of State on 18 insert this chart. The next argument the U.S. Permutation to the after includes the place of Republic of China, which links to the internal benefit and peace of China. The second argument is perm to the next argument is perm to the counterplan and functional competition of cards about proof the plan the perm severs and severances voting issue kills ground stable perms locus for all make offense here. Negative and benefit proves it's important. The counterplan is key to test language choices and prevents or uses otherwise unobjectional language. It's a decision rule. Otherwise, it's impossible. And textual competition is best because it's specific action objective. It allows easy comparison of the words, prevents judgment and which destroys fairness, and education avoids the worst counterplans like delay consult conditions, or which include the whole plan, which turns ground on worst case examples. So apply scramble parts of no benefit and being the plan competes if written correctly. The argument they made there's no war in it how it's of people in China. The two parties talking about China experts is in people who study China, which we should be because of debate and we are acting as policymakers. It says the use of the word is an unforgivable blunder because there's a warrant. There is a warrant for escalation that would be extended to China if you reviews policy shift and what China policy causes them to invade Taiwan. I'll read the cards that are in the Chansey doc now.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, not read that. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
China has the tendencies of imperialist predatory status. Theory 612. China's results of aggressive advances in its works so that because the world has evidence of Chinese aggression is coming from CS the Europeans effort through the belts of red hit technological imperialism to control white stated. The Chinese military is going to wear it all across will not hesitate. There's a clear warning of vision you see. A legitimate territory switch we don't wait defending the United States the secret Bush Trump and if China's part exclusively primary has perceived the world today is beginning to consider the implementations of Chinese representative represents like military political power abuse repression Christian Uyghurs and the minorities have miscarried and states are credited by offensive realism.
That's bad.
Wait, how much time do you have? 7. Okay. Did you read the Hickey stuff that was about Taiwan negotiations?
Yeah.
Crop 142. Let me write that down.
Oh, what'd you say?
142.
Okay.
Let me send the upload time. I'm just gonna send it on the body. It's like 3 minutes. Okay. The order is going to be the advantage, and then it will be the pick, and then, oh, okay. Actually, right after that, I'll just do the Japan curl stuff, and then I'll do the dip cap decide. I guess I'll put Konzo on the conditions counterclaim, so do the conditions counterclaim after that, and then do the pick at the bottom.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you do that?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to add something to the order that I forgot. So the DIB disad at the top, and then the advantage, then the Japan disad, the dip cap disad, the conditions counterclaim where Conor was, and then the pick.
At the top, I'm going to extend the stolar evidence that proves that DIB collapses and won't prove that a strategy of trying to stop China in appeasement and inevitably happens in the future, which means it doesn't matter if they win those claims. Also means that deterrence doesn't happen. Is it impossible? Which means that it's better to which means that it's a better idea. Go to the advantage. They, at the top of the appeasement debate, they concede that the Weiss evidence says that they've ignored CCP politics and pressure in the party, which means that those are the reasons why he wants to escalate now. That means they're ignoring reactionary pressures that he is facing, which means that they inherently proves that China is the defensive realist. Yes, all I said, the China defensive realism stuff here. First of all, is the digital evidence is much better because it's a study over 30 years of Chinese actions versus border disputes. They're trying to respond to border disputes with countries like India, which proves that they have good intentions. Second, that they're participating in free trade, WTO, and UN, and other multilateral regional organizations, which proves that they're not trying to counter U.S. hegemony as a whole, although which means that they're just silent on the nuance of CCP that should bring the entirety of the revision of the debate. Next, they say, yes, the plan does call for U.S.-China war. First, they misunderstand that after not negotiations, it doesn't matter because we just say that we functionally under security commitments to Taiwan, which means it doesn't matter because the U.S. won't be drawn and posed out, which means there's literally no impact to this argument. Second, they say no backlash, but yes, backlash. They don't account for the Greeks and Washington, which is miscalculation of the status quo, but because of mismatched perceptions. China doesn't think Trump will actually get involved because they choose he's too isolationist. Yes, independent. The Trump evidence proves that China as a platform actually she became more popular after she rejected Xi's calls for unification, which means this doesn't matter. Japan problem. Framing issue. There's only a chance that clear proliferation is better. Latent proliferation now takes out their impact. Japanese stockpiles are sending a signal. Latent proliferation now is the only scenario for domino prolif in RK and China that blames now because Japan's plutonium stockpiles are increasing, leading to conflict. They don't need to trigger Japan because proliferation and clarifying its intentions to China and solve ambiguity. Their evidence is wrong. It doesn't assume nuclear procurement or a stage measure proliferation. Only symmetric proliferation itself occur in 2015. The scholars have put attention to the nuclear weapons and employee crowd defeating analysis currently last edition to the time period since time for procuring nuclear weapons prolonged to the literature. The last and understatement of behavior during this time period. No tradition of nuclear weapons increase the cost of warhead, which has a deterrent effect. Deterrence does not work in a crisis where only one state has nuclear weapons and more likely to escalate than the crisis between nuclear weapon states. Mark that part. And nuclear weapon states and next they say deterrence case, but no, it doesn't because it doesn't. There's only a chance that it solves for appeasement because it deters China. Proliferation is good because I'll also read the bioweapons impact date here. Bioweapons is incredibly unlikely due to lack of resources and expertise. Lentos et al. 814. Dominator of Russ and misleading assumptions without bioterrorists that are challenged by the realistic and interesting scientific research and analysis. If historical cases synthetic biology is not easy research are facing every struggle with the standardization, mechanization, process link between synthetic biology and DIO bio is grossly overstated. Mark the amateurs lack access to knowledge able to and available to institutional research ability. The juice of fire from scratch is hard. Mark that part. Hard this means that they dropped the nuclear terror, which is the Wesley evidence coming out of the 2AC, which means they should frame the debate. It means that nuclear ambiguity in the status quo quo means that we can just, terrorists can just steal nuclear stockpiles from open air vats in Japan, which means that's net worse because it means that at least the terrorist alliance is bad deterrent. The extended deterrence doesn't work, which means that we're the only one who can actually solve for appeasement. And also they say assurance is now, but the fact that this is just our argument because it proves that there's only perception latent for life, which means there's only a chance that we access all of their offense in the status quo. Means that the fact that they've already opened the plant means that they do have a motivation and they're doing these things that make other countries perceive it like this in the status quo. Let's go to this side. Extend the Kim evidence at the top. All of our evidence postdates all of theirs, which proves that literally last Sunday, North Korea said they would not make a deal now because they don't agree with the U.S. position. They haven't afforded any reason why the U.S. is changing their position now, which means there's literally no uniqueness for this. That's the second. It's all extend the Brzezinski evidence here, which our evidence postdates all of theirs, which means their evidence just fundamentally doesn't take that North Korea's current position into account. And so now, I'll extend the North Korea evidence, the Brzezinski evidence here. It proves that there's no motivation in the past. There's no reason why we nuclearly go to war now, and even if there's no motivation for us to. And also their Bloomfield 2016 evidence is too old about the plan being initially have to be accepted by allies. We've made big defense decisions since then and not consulted allies, which means that this doesn't matter. The QPQ. Do you need me to extend condoms? I'll extend condoms. Multiple conditional wars is a voting issue. Violated this invaded an offense defense paradigm since serious against other arguments. It has a reason to reject the team. A expressed that only losing incentivizes behavior change peace, nor setting if we have a better model, we should win. It's not just a question of in round peace. Only argument innovation what this solves all of their offense. Education strength the ground. Pick. There is fundamentally no impact on this flow. None of their impact cards that they read in the water effectively describe whether you only use Republican China's map. Read their evidence. It talks about the war. China didn't even get mad whether the use of Republican China, the U.S. was in a politic defender arms sales. Also, other parts of the want to see use Taiwan, which is this checks all of their offense. Don't let them read evidence that's just as strikes in the RC that same paragraph. And their own church evidence says that the RC administrates Taiwan, which proves that we sell the Taiwan arms to the RC, which means that you have to prefer the interpretation. Permutation to the counterplane is just a normal means argument because we sell arms to Taiwan through the RC. It's not severance because we identified how those sales get to Taiwan. Means that also Augustin takes back here. The word packs are bad for fairness means that they just get that trick out of any word. It is not functionally competitive because it means the after and the counterplan functionally result in the same action, which means this is just right perm to the counterplan, so even more precise.
7 minutes. can be the pick, the QPQ counterplan, the assurances DA, the dip cap DA, and then the advantage. Everybody good? Okay. I know that word picks are okay, but this has to be the best word pick you've ever judged. Just the plan that uses governing authorities in Taiwan instead of the First Republic of China. That solves the entirety of the case. But independently, if they win the permutation or theory, you can judge kick the counterplan and vote on the net benefit as a basically drop dissent to the affirmative. The net benefit is super clear. Official U.S. usage of the term Republic of China is bad and causes China to overcorrect. They'll invade the island, launch preemptive strikes on the U.S. escalates to nuclear catastrophe. That's the shoe opens. But by the way, independent of our official offenses, if by some magic the counterplan doesn't solve, we do sell any arms to the Republic of China. This is the easiest presumption ballot ever. This is not answered, but it was flagged explicit by the one and another. They have failed to produce a single piece of evidence that says we sell arms to the Republic of China. This is not a joke. It has to be game over because we do not actually sell arms to any entity called the Republic of China. But we also, in case I don't get to this in time, we obviously link to the latent proliferation stuff, which means they can't go for the impact turn as a net benefit because the counterplan still reduces arm cells, so we still link to the only offense they really have left. The line by line, they say there's no impact because apology solves. No, this doesn't make any sense. They could drop a bunch of one or specific link contextualization. They have forwarded the argument that China is super reactive. They've forwarded the argument that China is super reactive to U.S. attempts to impose itself in the Chinese sphere of influence, which means that they react super hard. But they've also conceded several very good and specific pieces of evidence that says that China almost reacted to nuclear annihilation when we said the term in 1996 in a causal offhand manner. This is way worse because it's an official policy. They said that the one and C used the term Taiwan. No, they misunderstood the distinction between Republic of China and Taiwan. The PRC has given a few islands near Taiwan the name Republic of China to assert Chinese authority over these areas and push back on Taiwanese independence, but that demonstration is distinct from the government of Taiwan, which includes people like Tsai. The one he talked about, the Republic of China has no authority over Taiwan and is part of the mainland China, so producing arms cells system has zero meaning, which was a graph in the 1 and R, and also the turn evidence. They say the permutation to the counterplan. No, they conceded a bunch of functional distinction arguments here. This is definitely distinct. You can cross by all this stuff I said above. It is a geographically distinct area, which means that they sever out of a bunch of other islands. This actually makes a lot of sense in this context because it'd be like if the Plantic said reduce arms cells to the USSR and the counterplan said reduce arms cells to Russia. Even if you think that they are similar geographical entities, they are obviously functionally distinct political. Entities. Even if the ROC encompasses Taiwan, it still makes a lot of sense because the ROC geographically means all 4 Formosa islands, and Taiwan is only one of them. So severance is bad because it makes negligence and counterplan competition possible. They say that word pigs are bad. No, you should just change the counterplan text, but you should change the plans. But they've conceded a ton of reasons why they're good when we meet their interpretation. It is functionally competitive. I did all that work above it. It's key to negative ground testing. The F is the burn of the negative, and artificial restrictions on all levels of fiat crush negative flexibility. That outweighs literature and theory bias. All create NAF side devices are based, so you should overcome and preserve negative flexibility. And every counterplan is a pick because it includes the words USFG means that their interpretation gets rid of negative fiat, which is obviously bad and crushes fairness. Second strategic cost benefit. They choose the words in the plan text, so they should be prepared to defend it. Otherwise, it incentivizes sloppy plan text writing, which turns are often. Third is single words matter. Debating about distinction between Taiwan and Republic of China is necessary education. The TRA proves that it's a real controversy. The US has taken a stance on learning about that is good. Fourth is educated and encourages better diplomacy. Slavic evidence indicates that the word choice have major effects on world events. That makes us debating about the choice of single words is necessary for better diplomacy. If the counterplan can be then the counterplan should be legitimate. Competition is a way more objective standard. They conceded a bunch of defense versus literature text explosion. The counterplans have solvency advocates and net benefits prove that pick is actually meaningful. It means that it's not infinitely aggressive. Second is no ground loss. They can't defend their use of the term reach solvency deficits or impact on the net benefit. All which they can't do because they don't actually have a defense of their term. Anything else? Okay, sure. The QPQ counterplan. They can't win on conduct because it was 10 seconds. It was 10 seconds in the one error. They didn't actually answer our standards. First is framing. G punishment is bad. We'll concede and cross-play reasonability from T punishment. The introduction of any bad argument makes T and RVI and trivializes series offensive evidence something minor like skewing time allocation, especially issues they don't have an alternate vision or they don't have an alternate vision or a counter-interpretation. There are 2 main pieces of offense they drop. First is most real world and the logical policymakers have defended multiple amendments and counter proposals from both sides, like Obama defended the ACA from both leftists and ultra-conservative attacks. In the real world, time countries like the docket and find a staffing increases proves they have more realistic skill than all of their interpretations. Second and negative ground, the F control the direction of debate by selecting their case strategically. Shifting the 2 AC to opposite compensate for all of that reactionary guidance. It's key to fairness. This is intrinsic for the debate. They've conceded a couple pieces of internal links. Defense versus skews inevitable. This is inevitable because of T's and this. It's nothing unique about counterpoints. It's just a test of whether internal links are intrinsic. There's no dispute doesn't solve our offense. It encourages negative to be cheating and stuff that forces the absolute permute. And it doesn't solve logic pre-round. It's just uncondo, which is really doesn't make any sense. It doesn't solve our flexibility arguments because we wouldn't be able to read multiple options and learn about things like flexibility. The assurance SDA. They impact turned it, but we link to it. We still reduce arm cells, so they can't go for its impact turn because the counterplan still links. Dip cap DA concede No link, which also probably takes out the impact turn because the link to the dip cap to sad insurances are pretty repetitive. What was it?
Say reasonability doesn't apply to word picks theory.
Oh yeah, reasonability doesn't apply to word picks theory. It's not offense for them anyway. The advantage. In case they try to say that they solved the net benefit by solving backlash, it would be super niche, you shouldn't allow, but they've conceded that there's no independence movie because it's between two parties that both reject independence, which means they don't solve the backlash, but independently the net benefit of the pick is about backlash to the US. So even if they win, they solve backlash to Taiwan, it doesn't solve the external offense of China getting directly mad and causing drawn with the US. Like, they obviously can't make any argument about them solving the net benefit, and it doesn't apply anyway, so yeah.
One. Would be the advantage. The pick.
At the top, I'll extend the three internal links to the F. The first is CCP political dynamics, and the second, Xi's party is uniquely pressuring him to take Taiwan because of commitments to the TRA. The second internal link is emboldened election rhetoric by Tsai specifically because of arms sales to Taiwan. And they say, the third internal link is a unique arms sales internal link that talks about specifically why arms sales anger China. They say the solving backlash argument would be new, but it's not a crazy cross application, obviously, because they literally preempted it, which means obviously their net benefit stuff is illegitimate because I'll do more work on the actual cards and on that flow, but because there's a couple draft arguments, but the net benefit is solved by the app because obviously there's no risk of China war. The independence isn't conceded because the 1AR explicitly says that the Chung evidence that extends the Chung evidence that says that proves that independence has increased size popularity.
Yeah, it doesn't take.
There's fundamentally no impact on this flow because they dropped the argument that says that their evidence doesn't actually explain why the use of the word ROC is bad. Read their evidence that talks about the war stuff. China didn't even get mad about the use of the ROC. They got mad that the U.S. wasn't apologetic about arms sales. The evidence is very clear about why it wasn't about the use of the ROC. Don't let them. Well, I guess there's no way they can get out of this argument because there's no net benefit to the pick, which means you can't prefer it. Judge kick is bad because which means that if we win that it's illegitimate. We get all our offense on the flows, including the Japan flow and the impact turn. They say it's the permutation isn't severance. It's just specified. They dropped the normal means argument because it's just a way we sell arms to Taiwan through the ROC. If the ROC has jurisdiction over Taiwan, which their own evidence says it does, which it's not severance because we've just identified how those sales get to Taiwan, and since there's fundamentally no impact to vote on the pick, you automatically have to vote F. There's no presumption ballot. They say it's a difference between the USSR and Russia, but obviously that's not true because the literature base reflects different things, and they don't make that same distinction between USSR and Russia in the status quo. They say even if the ROC is Taiwan, the permutation will be severance. But obviously, I say that above. Why the permutation is just the specification of normal means. So that was in the 2AC. But they say word picks are good, but literally it allows them to take the entirety of the plan and move everything but 5 seconds of the 1AC. Obviously, that's terrible for fairness in education because it avoids in-depth clash over the literature base to the very maximum. That's obviously bad. Even if they win the risk of the net benefit, they obviously just steal the entirety of the app with an artificial net benefit, which isn't even legitimate, which I already answered. I guess I'll go to the global assurances. I'm just gonna do some extensions on the Japan prolif stuff. So Japan prolif, latent prolif is happening in the status quo, which is uniquely bad because we can't detect whether their stockpiles have increased or decreased, which is worse. They haven't. There's obviously no. They obviously dropped they didn't extend any defense to the turn in the 2NR, which means you have to give us 100% probability that latent prolif is happening in the status quo, and that's bad. The latent proliferation is bad because we can't tell whether Japan is developing weapons, which is bad because it causes miscalculation. Uniquely, opaque proliferation has not caused conflict in the past, but specifically proven by countries like Iran. But obviously, Japan latently proliferating is uniquely worse because it causes miscalculation because we can't tell whether or not they've actually prolif. They say that they solve it because of the counter, but because of the pick. But we've won reasons why the pick is illegitimate because there's no actual reason to prefer the pick, which means it's only a way to just steal 100% of the affirmative, which means you can't prefer it. All they've done is, which means it's actually not functionally competitive because it only makes a distinction between the ROC and Taiwan. But we've won that the ROC is just specifying normal means for how the arms get to Taiwan, which means we get all our offense on the Japan disad, or the global assurances disad, which is now just an add-on to the app.